wow, this is amazing. Are you kidding? I'm working with these people with these suits. They look so nice and sharp. And when I learned, is this it? This is all. I personally thought this was the best of the best. I personally thought the corporate workout was the best of the best until I was introduced to this opportunity. And I would encourage anyone to take a close look at network marketing because it's simply the best. Not to be biased, it's simply the best. You need to show that you're a hard worker and that's in anything. If you want to be successful at your music, school, anything, you must be dedicated and be a hard worker. Because you cannot win $1 million. Thomas Felder said that. So thank you very much, and I hope to learn more about the hip hop community. So thank you.
The reason why Miss Yell, I didn't tell you about it. I wanted to shock you. She's a student here at ECC as well. And I wanted to shock you. And my shock to you is that we always have these debates about hip-hop, man, and about other subject matter as well, spirituality. I wanted to show you that hip-hop is more than music entertainment. These women on this panel, they are entrepreneurs just like you, but they are older women who once was at your age, in your young 20s, which you are, I ain't gonna tell your age, in your young 20s, she's 20 years old. 21 years old, and she told me she refused to work for anybody at 21. That's brilliant. I think that's brilliant for you to even have that concept. So I wanted you to sit on a panel with older women who perceive themselves as being hip-hop, who all are business women.
I'm only talking
who have done what you are doing at 21, but then now they're in their 30s and some of their 40s. So I wanted to show you that hip-hop is more than just music entertainment, that these women on the panel are entrepreneurs and refuse to work for anybody just like you. That's what I wanted to show you, so that's why I want you to be on the panel. And shock you.
very good.
Tanya.
So, thanks for coming. I'm glad you work here to, kind of break the monotony anyway. We can all talk about hip hop because that's our passion, and but that whole entrepreneur thing, that's something that we all do. We're business women, we're mothers, we're aunts, aunties and godmoms and stuff like that too. We're mentors. We want women like you, young ladies like you, to basically follow what it is that we're doing. Because we're doing positive things. We are all doing positive things, and I love all my sisters that's on this panel. So we're gonna let my sister, Sophia. I don't think I'm gonna ask you any questions because you just go ahead because you can talk.
Because I can talk.
Yeah.
I can talk. So my name is Safiyyah Amina Muhammad, which is I always say thanks to my mom and dad because my name reads like poetry. Thank you. And so Champagne and I, the Champagne family and I actually go back to elementary school in Newark. And in high school, Tonya and I, we were the PLITs. And what I love about hip hop is the fact that hip hop is inclusive. And the hip hop culture is a family culture. And it's an all-encompassing, holistic culture. It's not just the clothes that we wear, it's not just the music, it's not just the lyrics that we write, it's the food that we eat, it's the way that we move, it's the messages that we give, it's the language that we speak. And when the sister had mentioned that we're from the Dominican Republic, one of my favorite hip-hop groups in the beginning, back in 1981, was a group called Mean Machine. And I had saw them perform. I was born in Harlem. I was raised in Newark and East Orange. And so I spent a lot of time, And so I spent a lot of time in New York City, a lot of time on all boroughs and on Long Island, Strong Island. I have a lot of family out in Hempstead. My daddy was born in Yonkers, raised in Red Hook. My mom was born and raised in Harlem. And so I didn't know that hip hop was hip hop. I just thought it was my lifestyle. I just thought it was my life. It was my family. It was the diversity that I saw in Newark and in Harlem and in the Bronx. And when I mentioned the rap group Mean Machine, they were bilingual, and they were rapping in Spanish. And that was my incentive to start learning Spanish. And so there was at one time when I used to speak Spanish fluently, and as they say, if you don't use it, you lose it. And that comes with anything, including hip-hop culture. And what was exciting for me was that growing up around Manhattanville College, Manhattanville Projects, I call it college because there was so much knowledge, there was so much to learn. It was like the school of hard knocks. So for me, the projects wasn't the projects. It wasn't about being a tenement. It was about being a college, an institution of learning. And so I saw people like Mean Machine come out into the circle, into the basketball courtyard, and everybody brought out their turntables, and we brought out like hundreds and hundreds of extension cords and plugged it up into people's apartments because electricity was free. So, you know, everybody got out there and they just had these little crazy jam sessions, and yeah, Dougie Fresh, people like that used to come through. My experience was behind the scenes, and I had a seat at the table by always being that little kid, tagging along with my male cousins. I had a lot of male cousins, and hanging out at Manhattanville Projects, and hanging out up in Sedgwick at Fordham Circle, and watching my big cousins get in trouble for hanging out late and keeping me out with them, but I used to sneak out. And just being able to sit there and listen to all the music, and being able to connect the music that they were scratching with the music that our parents were playing when we had our in-home parties and we had the family soul train on. You know, the hip-hop was about the movement, about our bodies. We were healthy because we had certain foods to eat. We were healthy because we moved all the time. That was important. And eventually it encouraged me to write. Because everything that my elders said and everything that the brothers said when they got on the mic, they were so eloquent to me. Even if they were like, yo, 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 that was eloquent to me. Because I said, what does that mean? It was a way for me to always figure out how to seek knowledge. Like, why are they saying that? What does yo mean? What is that short for? Is that another language? So hip-hop always encouraged me to want to find out more. And so by the time I got to high school, first of all, even in elementary school, I used to read a lot of poetry. I used to read a lot of Khalil Gibran. And as Glamorous mentioned, hip-hop is also spiritual too, and Jaja mentioned that because even our Bible, our Torah, our Quran, it's hip-hop. It's rhythm. It's a message. And it moves your spirit. If you really engross yourself in hip-hop culture, you realize that it moves your spirit. There's not anything about true school hip-hop that you cannot say it will not move you, because it will. And so I started writing, and we used to collaborate because PYT, I think we were a combination of like three, four different groups. But when we got together, we just rocked in the PYT's period, and we were all through East Orange and New York, and we did our thing. And I'll tell you another lesson, and it's, I'm sad to see that there aren't enough youngins in here to learn this message. But I was telling Glamorous that when my mom took hip-hop away from me, something that she didn't realize, that's when I learned about Foley's. And I stopped rocking the shows because I was pregnant in high school. And hip-hop even gave me the wisdom to recognize that I was pregnant. I was this teenager, and I was doing what I had to do because I wasn't going to the shows and I wasn't playing basketball anymore. And my mom was restricting me because she felt like these things were taken away from my grades. And I was in this talent show and we were talking about women's liberation and women's unity. And I'll never forget this rhyme to this day. I can't remember the whole, I was going to say poem because hip hop is poetry and rap is poetry. Yeah. So, you know, and I couldn't remember it, but the one thing that I remember out of that whole poem was never been and never will be a teen mother. And little did I know at that time that I was pregnant for my first son. And it was something about those words that I said on that stage and to myself that made me have a need to look into myself. And so I was asking questions like to the school nurse and to the teacher and everything, like, something's different about me. I don't know what it is. The funny thing is, as I was pregnant, I actually started writing more. And that's when I started engrossing myself a little bit more into poetry. And not that poetry took me outside of hip hop, but I think it was because of me rapping and rhyming. And I was a B-girl, so I was breakdancing with the 10-star B-boys from East Orange. And, you know, and we were traveling and we were doing our thing. And the funny thing is that my mom thought I was around too much male energy and that it was going to get me in trouble. But little did she know when she pulled me away from hip-hop culture, that it actually had the opposite effect. Yeah, and I had idle time. And idle time meant, you know, finding a bad boy who showed me some different things. And, you know, it was a blessing nonetheless because my oldest is, I wouldn't trade him for anything in the world. But, you know, there are so many positive influences to hip-hop. And when we talk about the balance and the good and the bad and the garbage versus the non-garbage and what have you, hip-hop heals. And I've raised my children teaching them in a hip-hop, giving them a hip-hop education. I'm an advocate. First of all, like I said, being raised between New Jersey and New York, I've always had a lot of influences. Always behind the scene influences, and the best thing about that for me is that I've always had the opportunity to learn. So my cousin's 5th grade teacher was Special K's mom. So we would get invitations to his class. We could go to the school and sit and chill with Special K and get knowledge from his mom. And as Jaja said, like the women, we have a role here. And that's important. You know, I have a cousin who is a hip hop producer, and he made me the president of his company, which is Harass Mode Entertainment. And he said he needed that because he needed a woman to be at the head of his business so that people could take his business seriously. And I didn't understand that. Right. He said, we have no feminine energy here. So I'm the CEO and I'm the founder and I'm going to execute this. And he had this, may he rest in paradise, his good friend, his dear friend, G Storm, a rapper from the Bronx and Harlem. He was on the rise and he moved down to Atlanta. And just as he got his deal down there, he was going to work with some people down there, including Lil Wayne actually, which is something that I didn't know. He was killed in a car accident. Yeah, and they were doing their thing. And they were doing their thing not necessarily for the spotlight as it stands, you know, being on stage and needing to always be in front. Because hip-hop is such a family environment, and hip-hop culture is a family environment, there was a lot to do other than being on stage, like getting your tracks on movie soundtracks. That's where he made his money. And getting publishing rights. He made a lot of money writing for other people. And I found myself doing the same thing by going to a lot of shows and getting involved in the entertainment industry, but doing something that's called ghostwriting. I do a lot of writing for people, and people don't know that it's not them writing their material. And I do a lot of writing for people by writing for radio stations and going to their shows and writing about the performances. And so one thing that I love about hip-hop culture too is that there's a reality there. Because today, people who aren't even interested in our culture, they say, here's the tickets, go to the show and tell me what you thought. And then they get on the radio and they talk about it and they talk to you when they're interviewing you like they're into what you're doing, but they're not. The one thing that I love about hip-hop culture is that there's so much authenticity there. And that's important, you know, to understand that there are cultural connections. There's no division in hip-hop culture, but you will know when somebody's not down by law. You will know that. You will recognize, real recognizes real. And real true school hip-hop recognizes real hip-hop culture. So I'm gonna leave it at that.
We're constantly hearing real hip-hop and not real hip-hop. The reason I have this question to everybody is, how so? Because, like I said before, we have where, say for instance, we'll just use examples of artists like a Nicki Minaj and a Lil Wayne. I'm from an era of, you know, I kind of came up behind Nikki D, one of the first women signed to Def Jam Records, right here from Jersey. Heather B, Bahamadia, and Apache, rest in peace, was one of my mentors. So being very young, right out of East Orange, we always hear this, you know, I understand the whole hip hop culture, but for artists like a Nicki Minaj and a Lil Wayne opposed to a Joel Ortiz, what is real hip hop?
Can I respond to that?
Yes.
Well, I think the general consensus of what real hip hop is more based on what hip hop used to be.
Okay.
Hip hop is all things that the sister at the end mentioned, and it certainly is a family unit as far as the culture is concerned. But hip hop music has evolved like many other things in our culture, our clothing, our form of speech, even, you know, just technology, everything's changed, even light bulbs, you know, everything has changed. So I think for people who say that this is not real hip hop or that is not real hip hop, you know, it kind of drives a wedge into that family environment. Like now, I don't connect to you because I feel that, you know, your form of music is not my definition of hip hop, but in the beginning, hip hop was a new creation, you know, sort of all things. I agree with what you're saying. It's evolution, and to say, you know, Nicki Minaj is not as authentic as Queen Latifah, to me, is saying that Picasso is not as good as Da Vinci. So I don't agree with that whole notion of real or not real hip hop.
Can I?
Oh, okay, go ahead.
You know, as I was saying before, it's what flavor. You can say hip hop is hip hop, and as it started, as being one of the pioneers, there's different kinds. We started as message rap, you know. Then you have the b-boy type where, you know, when breakdancing, we rap to that. You know, it's just how it started. That how it originated is that is hip hop. That's the original hip hop. That's what it is. And hip hop now is going through phases because, as times pass, it's going through a phase. Okay, that's hip hop, and I don't know how to explain it, but this is why all the older people who used to listen to the beginning of hip hop, they can relate, and they can't relate to what's going on now because it went through a phase. You know, Fly Ty, our manager from Culture, the Juice Crew, he said to me, you know what, we were in college, Mr. Magic and I were into Warner Brothers and so forth, and he said, we tried to get these old men to sign us, and they wasn't trying to hear nothing, you know, because they wasn't relating to them because they were young, and, you know, he said, today, he tried to go do the same thing, he was like, no, we don't want to hear none of that. It's like, now, they're younger, the people that work there now are younger, they're not old, they can't feel the same thing we want to present now. It's just that
Can we agree that the time is different?
Yeah,
that's what I said,
it's evolution.
it went
It's
through a
definitely
phase.
evolution.
It went through a phase, yes, evolution. It went through a
Right.
phase, and hip hop now is like we trying to put it in its right perspective. That's what we're doing. We want to put it in the right perspective. I think that's what it is.
Right.
And like you said, Magic said, the best of both worlds. Okay, you like that? We like this. This always gonna be. This is hip hop history. You know, it's always gonna be. Everybody still loves Run DMC, Curtis Blow. You know, it's like they walk up, Mally Mel. You walk up in the, it's like, this is hip hop right here. You know what I'm saying? And it's just a phase. So we like, you know, like you're saying, don't say real hip hop or whatever. It went through a phase. Hip hop.
Yeah, I want to say that I believe that it's all real hip hop, but it's just again, like she said, it's evolution. The times are changing. The generation is changing, but at the same time, we have Chinese people and you know Asian people. We have people in Switzerland and Russia, and they're feeling like, oh, we're dressing the part. Just because you turn your hat to the back, put on some baggy pants, throw on some sweats or whatever, and you can do some b-boy stuff, does that really make you hip hop? You know, you understand what I'm saying? Because it definitely is a culture, but we do have people that are emulating what it is that we do. But truthfully, it's again, we paved the way. Hip hop paved the way for all of this.
All the time.
Right, well, Grace has
Right.
something to say, but
Okay.
really quickly, you know, in regard to, different cultures emulating hip hop, Chuck D actually said recently on Twitter that Japan has a bigger hip hop culture than we do in America. So it's not emulating, like, that they live and breathe that the same way we do. They just live it and breathe it over there. You know what I mean? So.
Right, but the originators.
Of course.
Right, but you could say somebody originated pants, like, that's not relevant. It's what it's all about, and it's all encompassing, like a lot of
Believe me, I
music
know
is.
they eat sleeping.
What I think, well, I'll let Grace say. Go ahead, Grace. Go ahead.
But then we're gonna get questions from the audience.
Right.
And I just wanted to say too,
Oh, you
because
wanted to question.
and I just wanted to say too, because I know I've used that term when it comes to real hip hop. When I'm referencing hip hop, for me personally, I'm often, and I say often because I don't know if there may be times when I don't. I'm often referencing the culture, the clothing, the food, the dance, the movement, the knowledge, the wisdom, the spirituality, the music, and not just the rap lyrics.
Right,
Because,
exactly.
because sometimes it's important for us to make a distinction between that too.
Right.
There's an authenticity. When I say true school, I'm going to the authentic birthplace or the beginning. So yeah, and I love the fact that we agree to agree and we agree to disagree, because that's also hip hop. Because we used to battle. And when we battled, we didn't get out there and shoot each other. We didn't stab each other up. We just said, all right, you got that. You put down on linoleum. Like, if your lyrics were harder than mine, but I bet you can't break dance. I bet you can't pop and we did what we had to do.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
so,
right.
and that's what I love, that the hip hop culture is so all-encompassing.
And as women in hip hop, I just want to, lastly, as women in hip hop, I think it becomes a great division between us. Like, I definitely agree with what you're saying and respect the fact, you know, that you have a voice, and you know, that you guys paved the way for an artist like me, a writer like me, an entrepreneur like me. I think what happened in hip hop is the fact that deals are not the same as they used to be anymore. You know, deals are just not the same. If I'm not showing half my behind, then I'm just not going to get on in that fashion. But as far as being an underground artist, I have a great avenue. I make a lot of money doing that, you know, and it's a gift to me because I feel like I stay embodied and encompassed in the original culture of hip hop. It's just that I feel that, you know, I'm not going to hit on an artist like Nicki Minaj. I might not listen to the music. I know my little sister goes here. She's a Nicki Minaj fan. I don't get it. I'd rather listen to other music, but I respect her as a businesswoman because what she did was still brand herself. You know, I don't have to agree with it. I think that this sister here is just as equally as beautiful as an artist as Nicki Minaj, and you're not showing anything. You know what I mean? I just think we have a great division in hip hop. You know, that kind of causes that ruckus when it comes to artists like me that might be hardcore, that still has a conscious message, opposed to somebody who doesn't, like a pop artist.
Right. Okay. So we're gonna take the question from the audience.
Questions.
I saw that arm.
The long arms.
All right, questions.
I really feel what you guys are saying because I haven't gone to the museum yet, but I'm waiting because I've basically my whole history of hip hop has been those phases and those phases throughout my life. So the phases from being where I was from, you know, Eastern Parkway, and beginning and even knowing what it was, you know, just hearing it, you guys said, having artists just hit my ears, then getting a sense of being told by somebody else, you know, white people said, this is KRS-One. You know, it's oh, this is hip hop. Okay, I have to learn what it is, and then it's you know, BDP. Then to say, let me go on my own. Get then it goes to now, and it's Queen. Queens is about, you know.
John, that's such a wonderful.
My thing is, what I'm saying is that you were all at one point, and see, I can cut off too. But you know,
I'm the professor.
that's hip hop too. But I'm saying this is all hip hop, and it's worldwide, and it's global, it's universal, it's political, it's cultural, it's social. And it's here to stay. You know,
It's not going nowhere.
if we cut it off, if we cut hip hop off, I realize if we cut hip hop off, we cut umbilical cord. You know, we cut that.
Right.
We cut the fetus, and it's an abortion. You know,
That's right.
we supported our own movement that we built all life into.
Okay, but that wasn't really a question. That was a statement. That's what's up.
That's my brother. That's Jahan. I love you, brother.
Twin.
That's fine. Hello. Oh, nice meeting you, Safiyyah, by the way. But I'm going to ask to the older ladies. You got to turn that down.
Okay.
Yeah, right? Interruption. But like the way women portray themselves in hip hop today, what's your opinion of it? I think they're selling themselves short just to gain notoriety and popularity. NITE said, they're doing what they have to do as businesswomen, but I don't think they should sell themselves short to gain success or whatever, wealth. What do you think?
Well, that's not just in hip hop.
No, well, I'm talking about, we speak about hip hop. I'm speaking about hip hop and.
Can you be specific as to what artists? Because there are a lot of
Like you said,
artists.
Nicki Minaj.
Nicki
You have
Minaj.
Little Kim.
Okay.
Those particular artists that have the.
But be clear, real quick, Nicki Minaj, I meant as far as the branding, like she has a nail polish line, that's business.
No, yeah.
As far as her showing half her behind, no, I'm not with that.
I'm referring to as far as the music that they put out to our daughters.
As a woman of modesty, sex sells, okay? And that's her choice. She chose to do that. That you have to have the guts and be willing to do that. Sex sells, and it's just that's what it's doing. She put herself out there to make herself some money.
But that's not it.
It's her choice.
It's her choice.
Right.
That's her choice.
Artists
And you can't. And let me tell you something. Record labels, when they take on a artist for their music, they don't like your music. They want to see if you're gonna give them some dollars.
It's about image.
That's
Right.
what it's about.
Right.
It's about the money they put up front and how much they get in back.
Right.
That's
So we
what
don't
it's
let-
all about. We as the people, we like music, we like hip hop, we like to entertain, we love it. It's like she said, it's family, it's love, it's us. This is us, this is what's in us. Somebody is making money off of us.
That's right.
That's what they're doing. It's about money. Sex sells, and if you want to take your shoulder cleavage and your behind and all that, you won't get paid.
But we're gonna get a
That's
response from Chrissy. Is it, he has a question, so we're gonna actually